So that's number one. I mean, that has to be number one, number two, number three. That, like, especially when you're starting, that's all you can be thinking about is where's the right place to start for me, because that is going to make the difference for you.
My name is Brad, and you are watching the Millennials Guide to Real Estate. I'm joined with Josh Stiles of Boston, Massachusetts. This guy was named 30 Under 30 Realtor, who's who in Boston in 2017. I think also top 16 agent in Boston a couple years ago as well. So this guy's really rocking it. And how old are you, Josh?
Unfortunately, I turned 29.
29. Wow. That is pretty damn young still, though. So welcome on the show. And let's take us back to where it all started with real estate for you.
So I originally moved to Boston. My better half, she's from the area, and I moved here after graduating from school. Did not have any intentions or idea of going into real estate, and I kind of fell into it unintentionally when a family member bought a place on the Cape, and that sort of set me in that path, and haven't looked back since.
What was it about real estate that made you stay in? Is it the transactions? Is it the type of work, the flexibility? Is it working with people?
It's a combination of all that, but it's definitely, I don't know if flexibility is the right word, because I don't have a lot of flexibility from this job because of so much responsibility, but that's probably aligns with my personality, being self-employed and responsible for my own time, my own business, and dictating, overall my success.
Well, let's talk about your success real quick, because you're 29 right now and you dove in and you're getting all these accolades. You're a top producing agent. Why are you succeeding?
That's number one is fortune, but number two obviously is hard work, consistency, and passion. I mean, it was very hard to break into real estate, and you had to stay with it. I think there's a pretty high turnover for agents who first try to break into it. It's very challenging just to get in that first year and actually make enough income to actually cover your expenses. So that's why there's such a high turnover. Getting your license, I mean, that means nothing. I mean, anyone can get their license in a few weeks. That does not teach you anything about the actual business and acumen and skill set to actually get the business and know what you're doing. And it's always a constant learning experience, but it's sort of, that just matched well with my personality. I mean, there were certainly ups and downs, but that's what made it so exciting for me. And I think that's what it makes exciting for most of us who break into it, and anticipate these things. That's part of it, is having an understanding of this is going to happen, and you need to prepare to, deal with it when these, frustrations and, periods of time where you're not doing that great, things are slow, and how to adjust to that and deal with it.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that a lot of people get in because they see something on TV. They see flip this house. They see $1 million listings. They see the glamour. They see the nice suits, the champagne, apparent easy $80,000 commission or $30,000 commission. And they say, wow, this is so much easier and better than what I'm doing, without any of the background of grinding and lasting and getting started years and years ago and finally getting up to that point. So what was the first year like for you, even from finding your broker to what was a struggle for you?
So, I mean, the first year was obviously the hardest of years. I mean, just finding people that would work with you. I mean, you don't really have much of a reputation. You're young. I mean, I was also new to the city by general standards. So, I mean, a combination thing just made it really, really tough. So I had to reach anybody and everybody I could that had any potential. So I worked a lot in rentals. I only did 2 sales in my first year. But that was enough. I was teaching tenants part-time to help cover expenses, but at the same time, that allowed me to meet lots of people. That's kind of, tough. I mean, I don't think everyone comes, they most likely need a part-time job or some type of source of income, unless they have their partner or someone they're married or whoever they're with, can help, deal with that financial delay for that period of time.
What's a
so
good,
that's really it.
What's a good amount to have either in the bank or, if you want to give this part-time because you can't give up your other full-time job or your other part-time job, what would be a good rule of thumb or just a suggestion to have in the bank or expect that first transaction if you're really giving, let's say, 20 hours, 25 hours a week of marketing and gaining knowledge?
Yeah, so that's very subjective, person to person. I mean, if you're just sort of on a blank slate and you're coming into real estate, and I mean, if you're living in a major city like Boston or New York, I mean,
That's
obviously
expensive.
an incredibly expensive city, and you're paying rent or whatnot. And let's say you're single and you're not relying on someone else's source of income to help support you. I mean, you need at least 50K in a bank account. And I don't think many of us have that after college. I mean, student loans and paying rents and paying for food and just daily expenses. So, I mean, I think the majority need a part-time job. A full-time job, I mean, you can't fully commit yourself to real estate. It's just not feasible. You don't have the time for yourself and the time to give to your clients and provide the service that's needed to make your way into it. I mean, it's a way to definitely get your feet wet, but I mean, if you really want to get in 200%, I mean, you need to basically have that as your full-time job. And that, I mean, that's the best way to go about it. Going at a slow pace, I mean, it's just going to extend the time it takes you to really break in, and it's just going to make it even more challenging in that way. You have to
Yeah.
get your face out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where you just need to dive in and the momentum will eventually catch up. But if you keep going around the pool's edge, just dipping your toes in, you're never going to get that momentum. So in that first year, you said you only had a couple transactions. What did you really learn that first year that you didn't think or just really stuck out?
So the things that I learned, I mean, was more of just understanding personalities, the perspective from buyers and sellers, the personalities of other agents. I mean, overall, it was a positive influence, but every single individual responds differently to how you interact with them. I mean, that's the case with just with general life, any transaction in business, et cetera. So, I mean, it's just a lot of psychology involved in just trying to respond to people in the way in which they respond best. So you interact in so many different ways. And I did a lot of rentals, obviously. So that was the way I was getting most of my income that first year. And eventually, a lot of those people turned into buyers. The majority of people in cities like here all rent, so that's a proportional thing. And eventually, those people will transfer into home ownership. And so, it's still a great way to enter yourself in the market and build a clientele base from that as well.
Is it
So that's
just
something
easier? Is it just easier for new agents to dive into rentals at their office or to market themselves that way just because it's a smaller commitment? You don't need to be as knowledgeable or as experienced, or is it just that when you go up in terms of experience, you don't want to deal with rentals because it's not worth your time?
Combination of both. I have some people in my brokerage, they handle the most rentals. I mean, in any other brokerage, I mean, they're number one in Massachusetts. They crush it and they just focus on rentals. So, I mean, it could be a matter of preference. And I know other agents at other brokers, they just really do rentals. That's their passion and that's what they do. And they do very well. They're happy with it, great income. So that's just a matter of preference. But yes, that's definitely the easiest way to enter into the market. Just because there's just an incredible amount available to you. It's easier, it's faster transaction, faster, you get paid much quicker. But it's also can be challenging because it's so short that there's not much relationship established with those clients. So that can be also the other negative side is, if you don't maintain communication, which is a challenge enough, you rent to them, you don't hear from them ever again. And it's just very hard to maintain that. So, you might have done a rental or two with them and they sort of fall off the grid and they end up buying whatever years off.
Right, with another agent. Yeah.
Yeah, maintaining that relationship is tough and not in hindsight. So obviously people aren't buying a house every year. So, I mean, maintaining that connection is a big challenge, especially in rentals. And I see that consistently with my coworkers, myself. So that's the challenge. But definitely, an easy way and recommendation to break in and just sort of slow, well, not slowly, but quickly move in and generate income. That's obviously going to vary per city and per state. Like Boston, Massachusetts is just like a very active rental market where I grew up in Michigan. I mean, like that wasn't really so much of a thing, and no one knows what broker's fees are for rentals. So like a broker's fee in Massachusetts is typically 1 month's rent.
Correct.
So it's kind of different in other states when I've communicated with agents about that. So that can vary.
So what was your biggest mistake early on? Something that you really had to overcome or you had to learn the hard way on?
Biggest mistake my freshman year. I mean, my freshman year, I guess. I mean, it's an accurate description. You sort of, biggest challenge, was just ultimately patience. And, some people, they go in their own path, some of the buyers, whoever you're working with, sometimes they don't always respect you, and they think in their own way. So you have to be able to, just brush that off your shoulders and move on. I mean, even today, I'm still, doing pretty well. And there are a lot of other brokers that do exceptionally well, and we still have rough transactions on the rental, the sales side, and sometimes we don't get treated respectfully. That's just the way of business, and it's just knowing how to, take that and deal with it and just move on, because that's just the way it is. And it can be very frustrating at times. It can be big transactions, big rentals, and you're sort of feeling a little bit dependent on income. And unfortunately, that is something we just have to learn to deal with and adjust to. And if you can't, then this is not the right business for you. If you can't deal with that, as opposed to like a steady income in a conventional job, 9 to 5, because this is lots of up and downs.
Yeah. And I had an agent on from Chicago who said, she works with investors, but there are months where she's not had a paycheck because Chicago's winter is so brutal that everything just stops. And then the flip side is that summer comes and everything makes up for winter. So it's very up and down. And also in terms of personality and your own finances, you don't want to have to rely on that one transaction and then reek of desperation, or have to be in a situation where you don't have your client's best interest because that you're struggling financially because you didn't save enough from a prior transaction. So now you're really hoping something closes and it's not necessarily the best for your clients. So you definitely don't want to be in that situation where you have to question your own ethics. But let's move on to your marketing strategy, because you said that you were teaching tennis, you were being able to get clients from that. What else has worked for you?
So, I was hitting all spectrums, anything and everything I could. Anyone I interacted with. I went to a small school, but we have a big alumni here in the city. So, if you went to college or university, establishing a network with anyone you went to school with or older individuals, that's a great option for you to connect with. People that you've gone to school with love to maintain that relationship, and, are really excited to work with you. I'm doing a transaction now with someone I went to school with. And I think it makes everyone very happy, and you feel like you're committing to each other. So that's a great opportunity for everybody. Previous jobs that you've had, connecting with people in that way. Volunteer events, social events. There is an endless list. I'm in like this IB group, which is in a lot of major cities. And you become a member. It's like 80 or $100 a month, but they run all these different seminars and social events. So that's just an example where you can just meet people, make friends, interact, and also generate business that way. Anything. Join a nonprofit. I play tennis. I'm in the nonprofit events. We bring, they run after school tennis programs. That's called Tenacity. They're actually quite big in Boston. So there's a lot of different ways. There's a lot of things that you wouldn't think about that are great ways simply just to meet people and just put your face in front of them. And don't be afraid. I'm a quiet guy. I'm pretty quiet, laid back. I don't say I'm an aggressive person, but I've been trying very hard just to be clear to people. By the way, I am a realtor. Some people you have to repeat that. You have to lock it in, because even you say that a few times, eventually you have to make that click with them. And then when they look prior, they have someone they know, and it's like, oh, I know Josh, or I know so and so. Here's their contact information. Reach out to them. So,
And
I mean, that's pretty important. So, yeah.
yeah, that's been
Go
a
ahead. Go
common
ahead.
theme that I've been hearing, which is you need about 7 touch points. And I think that was in Gary Keller's
7,
book.
10, 100, as many as you can
It's
get.
been,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
we only have the room for about 2 or 3 realtors that come to mind, and your goal is to be one of the top ones that come to mind. And the only way to do that is to continuously remind people, not in a harassing way, but remind people, offer value, and just be that first one they think of for either themselves or their friend. But it's an ongoing process. It's not like, hey, I told you 2 years ago that I was a realtor. How come you didn't contact me? Well, we live in a world of more distractions than ever. How would you expect anyone to remember what you did 2 years ago? And now people are changing careers and they haven't spoken to you in 6 months. And then there's another realtor that's entered their mind in the last 2 months because they saw them at a coffee shop. They had a nice conversation. They're the PTA president for their kid at the school, whatever it is. So you always have to be doing that. Let's talk a bit about Compass, because I know Compass is really taken over. There's a lot of top agents that are going to Compass. What brought you over to that company?
So I started at Bouchari. It was a small boutique brokerage. There's like 40 of us. Great brokerage, and we got fully acquired by Compass almost a little over a year ago. And I joined Compass individually, so I work for myself. There are other people that came together as teams, but so we got acquired. Knew a lot of people that were already there. There were already a few people that had moved over from Bouchari that were sort of working more in the management area. So I gave it a try. The environment is great. It's a very open environment. It's all about collaboration, work as a team. That's the biggest thing that I liked about Bouchari mentality, and that's very much a part of Compass. Met Robert Refkin, several other people involved at the higher end of Compass that who are not realtors and obviously have helped create and integrate Compass. And the mentality is just fantastic. And it's very focused about educating and working with the agents and not focusing on profits, but bringing together technology and innovation and working together for everybody. And that makes us better agents and better serve our clients. And it's always, we're always trying to learn different ways to improve. I mean, it's also obviously known for its technology and it's constantly changing. There's a lot of programmers involved. So we're still, making steps to make it more efficient and better every day. But it's been a great experience thus far.
So touch on the technology side, why the focus is there, or what you've noticed that works with Compass. Because obviously, look, we're talking right now. This is for a YouTube station. The audio might go to a podcast at some point. Technology and the way we're absorbing information is changing rapidly. And a company that really focuses on the future of communication and technology sounds like just smart, to be honest. What specifically are they doing at Compass that you can look forward to for the future that other agencies, other brokerages are lagging?
So there's, I don't know, I don't know the exact percentage, but I think maybe like 20-25% of transactions never actually go on the public market on MLS. So that is a big thing for us, that we do a lot of coming soon listings, and that brings more accessibility to buyers and also benefits sellers to better advertise units before. So a lot of those transactions actually never actually go to the public, and that brings a lot of more opportunities to our clients that typically won't be available. And I mean, the other technology, I mean, we're creating our own CRM system. I mean, there's other couple of factors. I mean, the marketing thing is a huge thing right now. I mean, we're creating whole different types of signs, innovation, just different marketing factors. I mean, our signage is just like, I live by the train and they go by every 5 minutes, and our signs are like on every single train. So it's sort of like touches in a way. When you see the name Compass 100,000 times, I mean, that's kind of like the only thing you think about of what brokerage you're going to be working with.
So Josh, if you were just getting licensed today, or let's just say yesterday you got licensed, today is day one, in terms of the first 90 days from finding a broker to marketing yourself, it's literally you're your own boss. And today is day one after getting your license. What do you do?
Well, obviously, you can't do anything unless you're at a brokerage. So first, you have to get hired by a brokerage. Just having your license doesn't mean anything. So first you have to find a brokerage that sort of seems agreeable to you, that you feel will be a right place to start, where you will learn, and that they will be there for you, because that's not always the case. So that's number one. I mean, that has to be number one. Number two, number three, that, like, especially when you're starting, that's all you can be thinking about, is where's the right place to start for me, because that is going to make the difference for you. Because you might just simply decide it's not right for you because you're just having a poor experience, and you need to find an office in a place where there are people there that are there for you. They're going to help educate you and go through the transactions and help you figure out what is best for you and how to learn and adapt to an ever-changing market. And
What was it about Bashari that stuck out?
So for me, I enjoyed that it was small, and I felt like I got proper attention, and I had direct education from the brokers and other coworkers there. And when I needed something, I could get it. And that's not the case. It's not the case at every brokerage. Every brokerage functions differently. Where Bushari was very interested in bringing on a lot of new young agents and sort of, educate them and bring them in and their mindset. So I was fortunate for that. Compass and a lot of big time brokers, they don't have the time and energy to focus on that, because, that's a different type of business to bring those type of people in. That's a lot of time and money essentially to put into somebody. So most brokerages don't really do that. So be able to find somewhere to start out is a completely different scenario. So I wouldn't go off to a big end unless you're going to join a team as a new, where you can have someone, a broker and other people that can oversee you and, walk you through the process, and you can go through transactions with them. Because a lot of people tend to start that way just because they feel more comfortable. You're guaranteed, some income in that way because you're with a team that's doing transactions already. Obviously, the return is smaller, but there's a little bit more of a comfort zone in that way.
All right. So you find the brokerage that works best for you. And then now what? You're going to have to learn, but in terms of goals, in terms of what you want to do for that first 90 days, what came to mind for you?
I mean, the first 90 days, that's actually an incredibly hard question, because I can hardly remember what I was doing there. I mean, it was just again, communicating with everybody. I put some money into advertising. I mean, I tried everything. I did mail letters. I did paid advertising. I mean, I did door knocking. You name it.
Well, it seems like as a new realtor, especially, you haven't found what really worked in terms of marketing. You have to learn a ton, and it could be overwhelming. It sounds like it is overwhelming. Is there anything that you wish you would have done differently those first, let's say, 90 days to 6 months that would have made things better?
So I probably should have spent a little bit more time with some of my coworkers and more experienced agents, just following through on more transactions with them, and sort of so going to presentations with them, especially on the listing end too. So a lot of us start out as buyer's agents, just because it takes a lot. Generally, you need to represent with a lot more experience to get listings. Although you can be quite brilliant, it doesn't really matter how long you've been looking in real estate. That doesn't mean you're a great agent. But going through with your coworkers into listing presentations, to buyers presentations, and seeing how they present themselves and what knowledge they're bringing to the table in order to get that client, and going through the process from beginning to end of how that transaction works. And every transaction can be quite different in the way in which they're handled from beginning to end, because there's always bumps that go through. Not most transactions are not clean all the way through. They're not cash buyers. Nothing through there.
No contingencies, right?
So there's a lot of things that go through that, and you can learn quite a bit on those. And then when those things happen, you will be aware and understand how to handle them, because there's all sorts of intricacies that come along there. So that's a great, valuable thing to do. You don't need to necessarily read real estate books, anything sort of business oriented, Warren Buffett, about the Amazon creator, or about the social network, Facebook. I mean, some of those guys, those mentalities, I mean, obviously it's that a lot of these incredibly brilliant, but it shows how, the amount of work and time that they put in to sort of get to where they're at. And it's a lot of time. So you need to just be part of that is understanding it's involves incredible amount of effort and time, and learning a certain set. There are particularly sets in real estate in any business that you need to sort of abide by. I mean, they're all very similar, that sort of are stepping stones about what you need to do to slowly build your way up. And I'm still learning about that. I was on the phone yesterday with another broker that I met at 30 Under 30 back in Charleston a couple of weeks ago, and he was sort of giving me a different mindset on how you take these multiple steps to build up on the clients. So, and that's the same way for any type of business. So podcasts are great. There's so many different ones, and some maybe be more acceptable, presentable to someone else. They make more sense to you. So always sort of, searching through different articles. Inman News is a great set that's sort of very focused on realtors, and they always have very interesting articles for different types of transactions and principles and ethics. And the National Association of Realtors. Again, I strongly advocate for becoming a realtor. The education there is invaluable. The teachers there are phenomenal.
Awesome. Well, let me ask you a couple more questions before I let you go. And number one is, what is your superpower? What is the advantage that you have that has allowed you to surpass a lot of other realtors that got in at the same time as you?
I think it's both my strength and weakness. It's probably that, at least this is what my fiance tells me, is that I'm too patient and too nice.
Okay.
with clients. But that has kept me, because because you're going to have some very frustrating times with clients and transactions. Relationships with both of those can fall apart, and it's not typically your fault. It's not the realtor's fault or the agent's fault most of the time. But understanding that these things will happen, and knowing how to deal with them and treat them appropriately, and also knowing when you've put in too much effort and it's time to walk away. So those are things that have definitely put me in a strong position, and has sort of led me to where I'm at. But it's also something I consistently learn from, and something to always build on as well. It can be very challenging for first-time agents, knowing when to cut off a relationship with someone, and knowing when this person is probably wasting your time or they don't respect you. And that will happen at all levels of real estate or any business. And just knowing how to be patient, and just sometimes, be positive, walk away and whatnot, is something that is invaluable.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a very fine line where there's no way to quickly learn it. It's just going to take trial and error, and then seeing when you're getting taken advantage of versus when you need to give the benefit of the doubt one more time to someone. But yeah, I was going to say, that just sounds tough. I don't know if there's any way to learn that without just going through it.
So yeah, unfortunately, especially as a new agent, you have to, have those experiences to really understand it. And then you learn how to build up and react. Someone in a business, someone whatever it means, someone you've worked very hard for. That's really can be frustrating and heartbreaking at times. And sometimes people turn you away for a reason that doesn't make sense. Someone you've worked with, if you've worked for a long period of time for them, and suddenly they just drop you or work with someone else, it kind of can be mind-blowing, and you can't figure out why they did that. And unfortunately, there's not a real reason. You may have worked incredibly hard and perfect for them, and sometimes they just let you go, or they essentially screw you over. And you just have to take it, wear it like armor. Tyrion Lannister says, Jon Snow, wear it like armor, right? So all of us who are watching Game of Thrones right now, that should make sense to you.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you expect the hurdles, if you expect the heartbreaks, the challenges, it's not as bad. It's when you're blindsided thinking that everyone that you work with will love you and the transactions will close and they'll come back and that you'll never have any challenges. But when you expect it to be difficult and it doesn't matter, and you expect to be heartbroken and it doesn't matter, you're going to still keep going. It'll make the process a lot more enjoyable. I think that's with anything. And just one more question with your tennis background, because you were a top collegiate athlete. What did your training as an athlete bring to real estate?
So what I liked about tennis and what that helped with business acumen and whatnot was a combination of things. So tennis, especially college tennis and a lot of college sports, But college tennis is a little bit different because it's both an individual and a team sport, because there's singles and doubles, and then you win and lose as a team. So it's very unique and different in that way. And I think it really applies a lot to business, especially in real estate, because obviously we're all self-employed, but at the majority of our transactions, there's another agent on the side, or we have our own clients. There are other clients involved on the other end. We're working with lawyers. We are working with the loan provider. So it's all a team effort in the end. You're still working for yourself, but there's a team. So that kind of relationship was a lot like college tennis in a way. It's very interesting. So having that type of experience and knowing how to deal with both yourself, your team members, your coach is very much like real estate. So I felt like that experience, that 4 years, almost overlapped very much in real estate in that way.
Right on. All right. Any final words for new realtors that are just getting their license? Any words of advice?
Just come in with optimism. And again, everyone moves at different paces. So don't focus on the person next to you, whether they're a new agent, an older agent. Focus on yourself. There are times will be slow for you, and the person next to you will be very busy. And there'll be other times where you're, dealing with things are going really well, and the other people around you are not doing so well. So just everyone's moving at different, speeds and lengths, and everyone's relationships and businesses are working at different paces. So don't worry about other people. Focus on yourself. Things are going well. Be positive. And just, if you lay out for the longer stretch, you focus on the long-term goals, then you're in the gold. Think long-term, not short-term.
All right. That is Josh Stiles, Boston, Massachusetts, Compass Realty. If you're in the area and you're looking to list a home, rent, buy, this is the guy to contact. And he might actually maybe give you a free lesson of tennis if you close with him. I don't know.
Always available on tennis court.
Always available. Right on. Thank you so much for tuning into the Millennials Guide to Real Estate. Click below to watch the next video and also to contact Josh. Have a good one.
Thank you.